Today on Larry King Now, one of the world's most powerful preachers. It's Bishop T.D. Jakes. Do you think religion has a role in politics?
In this country, yes. I notice
It's supposed to be separate.
Yeah, but whenever anybody gets ready to run, they get religious whether they are or not. You cannot legislate love. You just cannot legislate it. You cannot make a mandate for people to feel differently.
Plus, why do you have the faith?
I believe it like I believe I'm in love. And I could never prove to you that I'm in love, but I know when I am. I believe it like I know when I'm in pain. I could never prove to you that I'm in pain, but I know when I am.
All next on Larry King Now. He has been named America's best preacher by Time magazine. He's worked with both Presidents Bush and Obama. He's the founder and senior pastor of the Potter's House in Dallas. That's one of the fastest growing churches in the nation, over 30,000 members. A best-selling author, his latest book is going to be a runaway hit, Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. We're going to talk a lot about the book in a little while. I'm surprised at the title because I never heard instinct was very religious, because you could have bad instinct. We'll get to that. For nearly 5 years since you were with us back at CNN, Obama was kicking in his presidency. How do you think he's doing?
I think he's doing pretty well under the circumstances. No president goes through the kind of tumultuous times that he's gone through without scrapes and bruises. But overall, I think that he's done pretty well.
Do you support affordable care?
I do.
I do too, but do you think it's going to kick in?
No, I think it's going to have problems. I think it's got a lot of problems. I think that some of the critics of it are absolutely right, that there's a lot of work that needs to be done on it, but it is a starting point. And I'm glad to see us make a start. I think that over the next, probably the next decade, we'll still be correcting it and fixing various nuances that weren't considered or done properly. But there had to be a start made before the millions and millions of people in this country that have no health care at all.
My friend Billy Graham told me that throughout the years, it was still always humbling, even though he knew many, to be with presidents. Is it humbling for you?
Absolutely, unbelievably so. And I'm very respectful of any relationships that they extend toward me. I've been very, very careful to honor the privacy of whatever conversations might be shared, and to be just to honor the office for what it is, regardless to what party is in that office.
President Bush was very religious, wasn't he?
He was.
He was born again.
Yes.
Do you think religion has a role in politics?
In this country, yes. I notice
it's supposed to be separate.
Yeah, but whenever anybody gets ready to run, they get religious whether they are or not. So it certainly has some ramifications, and like it has in all cultures, religion has affected art, it has affected literature, it has affected politics. I think it affects the way that we perceive and interact with each other every day.
Were you always religious?
It depends on what you call religious. I
did
grew
you
up
always
around,
have faith?
Yeah, I grew up around church and everything. But I think there's a misnomer that people think that when you grew up around church that you're this puritanical individual. I certainly wasn't that. I was a normal kid like anybody else. But faith certainly had an influence on me all of my life and still does today.
Why do your initials?
Why my initials?
Yeah, why is it TD?
It's shorter than Thomas Dexter.
But I like Thomas Dexter.
But when you're in a book signing, you can finish much quicker.
Oh, you sell a lot less books. But you've always been TD, right?
No,
I've always known you as TD.
Yeah, but it wasn't like that early on. I mean, people called me Thomas for years and years and years. But suddenly, when I got outside of West Virginia, the initial thing took off, and I kind of went with it. And it's easy to sign.
Historic Supreme Court ruling recently, 5-4, on open prayer at council meetings. They limited it to that. They didn't expand it to schools or anything. And they did expand. That council used to only do Christians. But now they did Jewish, they did Muslim now. What'd you make of the ruling?
I think it's very good. I think it's reflective of who we are as a people. I mean, no matter what you do, you're going to offend somebody with whatever you believe or think about anything. And that just speaks to the diversity that exists in this country. And for the Supreme Court to acknowledge that faith is a part of our lives, and I think they did it more from a traditional historical perspective than they did from a theological one, but be that as it may, to acknowledge the fact that there are people who are very comforted by their prayer life, regardless to their belief system.
That's what the majority said, that it brings comfort. The minority said, though, that it has no place in the public setting?
Larry, I was pastoring after 9/11, and churches, synagogues, and mosques all over this country were running over with people. You'd be surprised when we're up under attack how people stop being offended by a lot of things when they're really in trouble. And to those people who are adamantly atheistic or agnostic, I mean, their views ought to be respected too. But if respecting means acquiescing on my belief system in order to accommodate your own, there has to be some middle ground, because our country is going to continue to be increasingly diverse as we begin to bring in more and more people groups. And we have to set policies that embrace all people's views and accommodate them as best we can.
How do you feel? It always bugs me when we still have that incredible, I guess since slavery times, not totally recovered from our racist background. And then we see things like Paula Dean and Donald Sterling, and it keeps coming back. What does it do to you?
I'm not really surprised by that.
Really?
I mean, no, I'm not surprised. My father was from Mississippi. My mother was from Alabama. I grew up in the 60s. So, you know, where this country, this generation is shocked by it. I'm not shocked by it at all. And I don't think it will ever totally go away. And not only in this country, but in every country. It's not always over black and white, but it's always over something. In some parts of the world, it's over tribes, and other parts of the world, it's over religious. But there's always going to be Cain and Abel forward.
But the bottom line is stupid, isn't it?
It's stupid. It's all
not
get
like
out.
someone because they're colored or
it's stupid and it's ignorant. But that's part of humanity. And I think that we who are victims of that in any way have to move beyond it and progress and not make changing your heart the goal of my life. Because if I make changing your heart the goal of my life, I could end in total disappointment because I have no control over the way you think or the way that you love. You cannot legislate love. You just cannot legislate it. You cannot make a mandate for people to feel differently. You can make them say different things, but whether they mean it or not is something that is a matter of the heart, and I don't think our government can do that.
Doesn't it make you ponder why someone, I mean, there's no baby that's a racist.
Right.
It's got to be taught, right?
It's taught. It's a learned behavior. It is absolutely a learned behavior. It absolutely is a learned behavior. And I think it is also a generational issue. I think as we get further and further away from our history and as we update the challenges of our contemporary times, we will be less inundated with the bruises from our past. But it is a slow healing, gaping wound, not only on the victim, but even on the victimizer. Because I think to be racist is an expression of your own wound.
You're a victim of your own.
Absolutely.
Next,
Absolutely.
Bishop Jakes takes on Trusting Your Instincts. Don't go away. We're back with T.D. Jakes. The book is Instinct, the Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. Define it. Instinct is?
Instinct is an acknowledgement that we have been pre-wired with certain proclivities through which that when we are placed in those environments which we are attracted to, we are best suited to function from that perspective.
If the old adage was trust your gut.
Absolutely.
How about, though, when your instinct is wrong? Like you like someone, they turned out to be terrible. My instinct was to take that job. It was a bad job. How do you deal with that?
When I look at instincts, I look at them more from a global perspective than specificity. I want to make a distinction between instincts and urges. We all have human urges, which may take you anywhere. But when I speak of instincts, I think of your ability to be artistic, not necessarily a particular job. Your ability to be prolific as a writer, not necessarily working for a particular journalistic persuasion. So we're talking about categories as opposed to specific locations. And to find out who you are and where you shine the best, or what you are designed to do, may not really point to a person you date or a job you take, but it sets you on a course for human development and for a sense of contribution to the world at large.
Have you always trusted your instinct?
Sometimes willingly and sometimes by force. I think you develop it as you go along, and you know, instincts become defined in retrospect. When you look back over your life, you can see when you went with it and how it worked, and when you didn't go with it, how it did not work. And again, I can see many times in my life that I took the wrong turn and then decided, wow, I thought I would end up doing something in the sphere of music because I love music. But I am not, I have a gift with music, but I'm not equipped to the degree that I could have made it my life's calling. So now I sit in the pews and enjoy other people sing. I think that was where I was supposed to be. But orating, speaking, is something that I'm passionate about.
Why? What made you write this book?
I wrote this book because I'm getting older, and as I get older and collect the rich body of experiences that I have been blessed to have that many people won't get to have, I got to sit with Larry King, got to sit with presidents and kings and people in Hollywood and elsewhere. The people who really shattered the glass ceiling were people who did it from their gut, that they did it instinctively. They broke the rules, took the risk, and went ahead to be authentically them. And I wrote this book because I'm concerned about the next generation, that we leave them with all the tools and all the advice and all the help that we can to maximize who they are and become all that they could be. And I think it makes a difference. The other reason I want to say this, I did it because I live in so many different, in the book I call them jungles. They are social constructs, from politics to religion to journalism. I operate Hollywood. And I begin to talk about people who are wearing a lot of different hats and about to lose their head. How to manage all of those jungles, to juggle them, as it were, without losing sight of who you are as an individual.
When you see a book is written by T.D. Jakes, and you've written many, the natural thought is that this is going to be a book about God and religion. Mm-hmm. Can an agnostic enjoy this book?
Absolutely. Because the only reason that you think that is because if you define me by how you met me, then you see me purely as a preacher. But I knew me as a man. So I'm a man who is a preacher, comma, who is a film producer, comma, who is a business person, producer, who is a father. So all of those people meet and convocate when I write. The father, the son, the CEO, the pastor, the person, the guy. All of them are sitting down to write together a composite of the total conclusions that I have gathered in 56 years.
I love your chapter titles. Like, the elephant is over there. Elaborate.
Well, let me tell you something. When I was in South Africa on a safari, I was blessed to be on a safari after I had taught for a group of black billionaires a seminar about faith and finances. And they detained me over and gave me the privilege of staying out at J. Paul Getty's place out there in the middle of the jungle somewhere, and to go on a safari with my son. It was amazing. So there I am in between a zoologist who is giving me all of this information about all the animals, their habitats, their mating practices, how they live, how they operate, and sitting on the edge of the Jeep with a shotgun to protect us. We weren't hunting, we were just watching, was a Zulu. The Zulu says nothing at all. The zoologist explains all the animals, and we visit all the different places and see a lot of the animals, but we had not found the elephant. He explained the elephant, but he could not find him. Finally, the Zulu stood up and he put his finger in the air and he pointed up. He said, "The elephant is over there." When he said it to me, my head exploded, Larry. It exploded because all of a sudden I realized I'm sitting between intellect and instinct. Mm-hmm. Intellect can describe it, but only instinct can find it. And from the premise of that ideology, I begin to go back through all of my life and begin to see not only me, but others, how if they position themselves between intellect and instinct and know when to yield to which one, that next big thing, whether it's an elephant, an entrepreneurial pursuit, or raising a family, it is simply over there if you follow your instincts.
Have you learned from your poor instincts?
Yes. Yes. You
when
know,
instinct didn't work.
Yeah, I have learned from the difference between misdefining my emotions as instincts as opposed to discerning even deeper to proclivities that are authentically mine, that are truly instinctive to me. I think a lot of things that people call instincts are really impressions that they get that are fed from their emotions or by societal influences, for example. Sometimes people create biases in how they teach you, like we were talking about prejudice a moment ago, or fear. And so sometimes we misread instincts, and they are actually either urges or emotional impulses.
The book is Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. Can Hollywood be saved if the bishop takes on the movie industry? More on that when we come back. We're back with T.D. Jakes. I did not know that you produced Heaven is for Real, based on that book,
yes.
Right, on a 4-year-old child.
It was an amazing book.
How'd you get involved?
Well, I wasn't the only
You're a
producer.
movie maker?
Yeah, well, I've been doing several. I've done about 7 films, and I have a first look deal with Sony through which I've done a myriad of. I did that. You will remember I did that movie with Whitney Houston, Sparkle. I was one of the producers on that, and Joe Roth is also one of the producers on Heaven Is for Real.
He's a great guy.
Amazing,
Great
amazing.
guy. Directed me.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I told him I was just honored to be on the same bill with him. So we had just a tremendous story with a brand that was already built in it. And the father, in real life, came to me and said, I want you to be a part of this project. I don't want to do it without you. He actually heard me speaking at a conference, and from that perspective, Mr. Burpo asked me to be involved. I sat down with Devon Franklin from Columbia Pictures, and we worked out an agreement, and I became one of the producers of the project.
Do you believe that story? The 4-year-old kid, he saw Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. Was he injured? Was he sick?
The boy was not dead. He almost died. He had a near-death experience. He came out of it saying that he had seen heaven. And from a
Did you read the book when it came out?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It is an amazing read, and it's a powerful read. And you have to meet the Burpos to understand how unique this family is and how creative they are. I don't know what he saw, but we wanted to be true to what he said he saw. And that was quite intimidating, because when you start trying to depict heaven, there's all this theology, there's all of this drama. I mean, if you do it from a apocalyptic perspective with the sea of glass and the 24 elders and all of that, and it was a daunting movie to make, because we grappled with that. We finally realized that it was not our voice, nor the voice of the book of Revelations that was supposed to lead the conversation. It was the voice of the Burpos and their child in particular. And from that perspective, we told the story.
The movie's a big hit.
It is.
Where'd you find the kid?
That is the most amazing story. He had never acted before.
How old was he?
I think he was 5 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, he's this little adorable kid who has these, and this might sound insulting, but he reminded me of Shirley Temple. Okay, you remember the magic of Shirley Temple. Well, he's a boy, but he's got those kind of eyes and that kind of adorableness, and he'd never acted before. And I wasn't with the casting team, but I was told that they'd gone through about 1,000 kids. He's the last one. He's the absolute last one. And he walked in and nailed it.
All right, TD, you've been preaching the Bible all your life.
Mm-hmm. Well,
this kid, or most of your life. He writes a book, Heaven Is for Real. It's a bestseller. The movie's going to be a big hit. The kid saw heaven. Mm-hmm. Do you think, in your gut, in your instinct, that he was fantasizing based on what he'd heard in his house or been taught, so he imagined this?
Well, that's what his father thought. And that's the trail he went down. The father, who is a preacher, found it difficult to believe because, first of all, from a theological perspective, the boy didn't die. So it was an unusual.
So what was he doing in heaven?
Exactly. So the father had trouble with it. And my only thought about it from a theological perspective is this, if you believe the Bible, as I do, Elijah went to heaven and he didn't die. Enoch was translated and didn't see death, and he didn't die. And then there's the possibility of maybe it wasn't heaven at all. Maybe closer to your idea, maybe it was a vision. But perhaps God allowed him to have a vision to tantalize our imaginations and to provoke the kind of conversation we're having right now. All I know is that millions of people around the world have lost loved ones, and the idea that there is something beyond this world fascinates us, intrigues us. It may not satisfy every
But it's
curiosity.
a great crutch, isn't it? I mean, death is the great mystery.
Right.
And religion has the answer to death. You're going somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's a good feeling to have, and you can't be proved wrong, because if you don't go anywhere, you don't know it. And if you go somewhere, you're right.
Right.
So it gives you a good feeling. But how do you know it? You can't know it, can you?
I don't think that knowing something, once you know it, it takes it out the realm of faith. I don't need to believe that I'm sitting here talking to you, because I know I am. Faith is meant to bridge the gap between that is scientifically proven and that which we believe. It is the substance of the very thing that we hope for. But to the mind that wants to rationalize and reason everything to the point of knowingness, no, it's not meant to be resolved.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I know that's you.
I go nuts.
I know that's you up and down. But that's good.
So I have one key question. I've been asking it all my life.
Okay.
Why do you believe it?
Why do I believe it?
Why do you have the faith?
I have the faith beyond the realm of my intellectualism. I have it in my heart. I believe it like I believe I'm in love. And I could never prove to you that I'm in love, but I know when I am. I believe it like I know when I'm in pain. I could never prove to you that I'm in pain, but I know when I am, even when the doctor says I shouldn't be. There are some things that are true to us, that are innate to us, that cannot be analyzed. They must be embraced by faith.
But how'd you find it?
Seeking. There is a gap. See, my father got sick when I was 10 and died when I was 16. So I took life a lot more seriously than kids who grew up playing football and basketball and whatever they do. When a kid grapples and lives in hospitals and is raised sleeping on hospital floors all of his life and sees kids his age dying, you become hungry to know answers on a personal level. Not necessarily to preach. I was too young for that. Or to prove. You'll never be able to do that because God is the one thing that cannot be proven. He must be revealed. And like many things that we grapple with that we count to be real that cannot be proven, like love or anger or hate, they are still things that we sense in the individual who has them knows that they are so. It is the most personal relationship you will ever have in your life because it lives within your heart.
I can see why he's famous. T.D. Jakes, we will have your questions answered after the break. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He's T.D. Jakes. The book is Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. We have some social media questions.
Great.
Money Mondajar, Instagram. How do you decide which principles and ideas from the Bible are literal and which are parables open to interpretation?
You don't decide that. I don't decide that. Let me say that. For me, parables are generally identified as parables in the scriptures, are generally confined to the things that Jesus said, that I tell you a story, or the kingdom of heaven is likened, and he sets it in the context of a metaphor, and we assume that it is a metaphor. When we go beyond those parameters and we assume things to be parabolic that were not said to be parabolic, then that gets up to interpretation, and I don't always think that that's the wise thing to do.
At Weapons of Worship on Twitter, are instincts equivalent to what some believers would express as the Holy Spirit?
No, they're two different things. When I'm talking about instincts, I'm talking about how the Creator wired you, how the manufacturer made you. When people are talking about the Holy Spirit, that's how he redeems you, how he brings you into relationship with him. And so the instincts was not written to be exclusive to those people who have had a Holy Spirit experience. It is more about how we have been created to function better or best in certain types of environments.
At Purple Reels on Twitter, what is something you'd suggest to add to our daily routine to empower ourselves? Quiet. We're too busy.
We are so busy that we don't notice that we're not productive. Busy does not mean that you are producing. We are just spinning our wheels. And the great thinking and progress that we've made in this country, steam engines, telephones, automobiles, all types of things, spacecrafts, were done by people who had moments to think. We're moving so fast at breakneck speed. And if we get a free moment, we're on Twitter and Facebook and everything. It's the death of creativity. And I would challenge people to go back to meditation. And if you're spiritual, go back to prayer. If you're not, just go back to just laying still for a moment to clear your head, to hit the reset button. Because we are starting every day with the burdens from yesterday assaulting us in today. Let's put a comma between all of that.
I read somewhere, as an actor, I think, said it, that once a week, he doesn't talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't talk all day.
Yeah, just peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, just peace. Shut it all down, and you'd be surprised what you can hear when you shut up.
Kathleen McGuire on Twitter, how do you balance your personal life with your professional life? How do you deal with it all?
It's an ongoing challenge every day. I wrote in the book a chapter called Juggling Jungles because I live in so many different worlds and how I have to touch a little bit of everything almost every day. I learned this, that at the end of the day, I will never have a day that I get to the end of the day and everything is done. Whether I've been the perfect father or the perfect husband or the perfect boss or the perfect pastor or the perfect CEO, I'm not going to hit 100 every day in all of those areas. I just try to make sure that it's not a deficiency in the same area every day. Okay? So today I got the father thing real good. Tomorrow I get the husband thing really good. The next day I get the CEO. But you can't be 100 every day when you have a lot given to you. Just don't be deficient every day in the same place.
At CM Beltre on Twitter, what's the best advice you ever received?
To go with my gut, to listen at my inner...
Your instinct.
My instinct. I mean, it's really true. And that's why I had the aha moment out there, because when I look back over my life, I wrote a book, a man writing a book called Woman Thou Art Loose to Women. At a time, no publisher wanted to publish it. There was no precedence for it, but I went with my gut, and that book sold 7 million copies, blessed people all over the world, been translated into 10 different languages. If I would have gone by the empirical data, I would have never done it. I moved from Charleston, West Virginia to Dallas, Texas, didn't even know anybody, but I felt like I was finished in West Virginia. Instinctively saw Dallas as a place that I needed to be. And I went from pastoring 1,000 people to 30,000. Every major move that ever happened in my life, from doing gospel plays that turned into movies that ended up with contracts with Sony's, I've never been trained to do it. It was all instinct. And when I presented this idea and began to talk about it, and I started talking to other people like Tyler Perry or Oprah Winfrey or anybody else that I got a chance to corner long enough to ask a question or two, they were instinctive too.
What do you do when you see tragedy that man didn't create? When you see Katrina or children die, how do you rationalize that?
It's a painful thing. It's a horrible thing. Whether you're talking about Katrina, which to me, Katrina
was nothing to do with man's will or free will.
No, Katrina was a collaborative act between a deficient form of government that failed to prepare for the amount of citizens that it had living in that area.
But the wind and the rain,
but if the wind
man didn't create.
No, and the wind and the rain will come and it will bring destruction. But in Katrina's case, it was not the wind and the rain alone. Had the levees been done properly and people been advised appropriately,
so man was involved.
Man was involved with Katrina.
You're a great man, TD.
Thank you, sir.
Let's not wait another 5 years. I might not be here. And if I'm not here, I better be somewhere. I'm taking your word.
Having this for real, Larry. Having this for real.
Thanks to my guest, Bishop T.D. Jakes. Instinct, the power to unleash your inborn drive, is in bookstores now, so you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. See you next time.